Does the United States feel like it is gradually retreating from the region, or do you feel a greater and greater presence?
In the past few weeks, I think the presence of their ballistic missile submarines surfacing in so many ports around the vicinity. Manila just had the visit by your aircraft carrier, George Washington, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this presence has reiterated that they are still around, that we can count on the treaties that we have signed with your government for a very long time. And that also, I think, augurs well for maintaining cordial relations with each other.
Let me ask you one more question, and then we'll open it up here. The insurgency in the South in this chapter has been going on since the 1970s. Give us a state of the union there. How many armed insurgents are there? Is it waxing? Is it waning?
Well, lately, the primary Muslim secessionist group is the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. And Malaysia, who's the third party in our negotiations with the MILF, has indicated intense support for resolving this issue in the shortest time possible. The foreign minister told me that they are focusing on efforts to try and do it within my term. And lately, the MILF has really been trying to discipline its errant members. They have demonstrated that. We are also heartened by the fact that they have, in a sense, toned down their demands from the previous regime. When there were talks previously, they needed solutions that went beyond the ambit of our Constitution. Now it seems that to a large degree it will be within the ambit of our Constitution. So that makes it even easier to come to terms with them. So we are very hopeful. We have formed our negotiating panel. We've agreed on the head of the observer group. And when I get home, I expect to have to be told that of the actual date of when the resumption of the peace talks will be. So if that happens, you will have groups like the Abu Sayyaf deprived of the friendly bases. They will become more and more marginalized, and we will have more and more peace in Mindanao, which then will cease to become the land of promise and become the land of promises realized.
Let's open it up for questions. May I ask you to follow the council protocol when we do this, which is to wait for the microphone so we can get it on the record. And then if you would keep your questions to one. And then finally, please identify yourself and your organization.
I'm Lucy Commissar. I am a journalist. I speak as somebody who was in Manila during the People Power Revolution in 1986 and then wrote a book about your mother. It's one of the issues that made me get interested in the whole offshore corruption question, because people told me that Marcos had looted the country and put his money in Switzerland. I'm wondering what you're doing to finally find this, because I understand that one of your agencies has done a report that showed how the money was moved to Liechtenstein, and it knows where the money went, about the accounts, and then the investigation just seems to have stopped. Are you doing anything to find out what happened to what is probably billions of dollars that Marcos may have stolen and might now be hidden because some people afterwards got some of that cash?
My mother set up a commission called the Presidential Commission on Good Government. I think it was her first order, the very first order of business. And in fairness, it has recovered somewhere in the neighborhoods of about $10 billion to date. Now, the problem starts with the fact that Mr. Marcos was probably the only person who knew where everything went. And Switzerland is one of the depository countries. There were several properties in America and in various other countries. We have nominated new people to the Presidential Commission on Good Government. The last one had an advocacy only of coming to a splitting of the proceeds between the heirs of Mr. Marcos and government as his main proposal in resolving the issue. Again, this new set of commissioners headed by Dean Andy Bautista, we expect will accelerate the process of regaining this lost wealth and the interests earned in roughly about 24 years of trying to get after all of it now. We don't guarantee perfect results, but intense efforts will really be done towards recovery of the same.
Let's move over here, please.
Good morning. I'm Antoinette Raquisa. I'm currently a visiting scholar at Columbia University Weatherhead Center of East-West Relations. And my question is about industrial policy. For the past 2 decades, the Philippines has actually the biggest dollar earner of the Philippines has been export labor, and more recently that has been augmented by the spread of call centers. So that what we have right now is actually the start of deindustrialization, according to a lot of domestic Philippine economists. I was wondering if your government has any real how do you plan to address the fact that there's a need to develop the domestic manufacturing sector, or do you have a plan for that?
There is a plan, but unfortunately we're inheriting so many givens. Amongst them, power, electricity in particular. The Philippines has one of the highest rates, sometimes equal to and sometimes greater than that of Japan. And that obviously is a serious hindrance towards revitalizing the manufacturing sector. That energy situation is being currently addressed. One of the meetings I had with the business group here had to deal with the provision of a new 600 megawatt facility in Luzon. There are others that we're trying to push them also in Mindanao. And there are various tweaks that will be done towards the whole pricing structure and the law governing the electrical power industry called the PIRA. Once all of those are in place, we will be bringing down the price of electricity, and hopefully that will be a boost to manufacturing efforts. Amongst, I'm kind of inhibited to tell you all of the companies that we've talked to so far, and the rest of the companies we'll be talking to later. But manufacturing will be, there are new investors who will be coming to manufacture various items. The campaign amongst our PhilAms here in America to join us in that campaign to lobby for the SAVE Act will, in time, 4 years or so, if it's successful, be able to get us back to the levels of those who were in the garments industry just a few years back. We're down to about 180,000 now from a peak of about 700, 800,000 then. In 4 or 5 years, we might get 580,000 back into the sector. And as you know, growth will induce further growth. So far, the drivers for our economy have to really rely on the business processing outsourcing, tourism to include medical tourism, agriculture, and mining. But of course, my personal dream is to get back that manufacturing aspect. When you take a bath and the soap you use is imported from Thailand amongst other countries, now you wonder how such a low-tech product can be produced in your own country. So as a sense of, coming from national pride, that has to also be addressed.
Let's do a question over here, please, in the orange. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Minky Warden from Human Rights Watch. President Aquino, in your inaugural address, you promised to attempt to bring justice for victims of serious human rights abuses. Yet, hundreds of extrajudicial killings and disappearances have so far gone unprosecuted, except for a handful. You mentioned that criminals may have a feeling that they will never see a jail cell, and I think some human rights abusers may have the same feeling. What's your government doing? What steps is it taking to accelerate the process for justice and accountability?
In the for accountability, the killings happened with a sense of impunity. Nobody will ever be brought before the bars of justice, and that they can go on their merry way. But in the first 3 weeks of our administration, there were 6 killings that could be characterized as extra-legal. Of these 6, 3 of them have already been solved on the 3rd week. And of that, charges have been proffered on all of these 3 cases. We have in custody several of the assailants. And may I add that we have a communist insurgency. One of these extra-legal killings is supposed to have been done on one of their sympathizers. They advised the family of the deceased not to cooperate with government. But in spite of that, we did bring them to court, and the process is undergoing trial. It is not a matter of state policy, especially under a regime. My father, obviously, is the reminder that is constant of what was done when a government set up by the people suddenly turns on the people. As I mentioned in my other dialogues, I'm sorry, I have had so many meetings. I hope I mentioned the idea of judicial reform. And judicial reform really is the fourth plank in our platform. When you don't have really a sense of certainty of punishment, then your peace and order situation deteriorates. Towards that end, I got the former chair of the Commission on Human Rights to head our Justice Department. She is a very driven individual, and she can be counted upon to really deliver in securing all of the convictions necessary to put an end, or at the very least, mete out the right punishment to people who have transgressed our laws. So when I talk to our security forces, I keep emphasizing there are greater demands on you because you cannot deteriorate to the same level as those who have become outlaws or are outside the stream. This is a question of winning the hearts and minds. It is an investment in ensuring that we deprive these insurgents from the base of support that the people will give them if we are not any different from those that we are fighting. So towards that end, a parameter of appointments into office, for especially promotions, has to be an absence of a human rights abuse record on the part of various officers.
Let's see. With the card up.
Welcome, Mr. President. I'm Jamie Metzel from the Asia Society. I think everybody, both within the Philippines and outside, is thrilled by your government's commitment to stamping out corruption, which is a scourge that in the Philippines has suffered as a result. But many of us who are observers of the Philippines also at least observe that there are some deeply structural issues in the Philippines that at least fuel some of the inequality and injustice and also corruption. And foremost among those, it seems, is the maintenance of a at least semi-feudal structure of overall society in the Philippines that is something more akin to Pakistan than to maybe some of other countries across the region. And my question to you is, do you accept that characterization of the Philippines? And if so, what is and can your government do to address these deeply